Welcome back to A&A. It's a little rainy today, and what we're looking at here is a project I've been working on for a couple of weeks. I don't know, maybe about 3 weeks. Anyway, it's a 2006 Honda Accord. It's got the 2.4 liter K24 engine. Very popular engine, very dependable, very well-built engine. The wife was driving this car. It was running great. Everything was fine. I started seeing a little bit of oil consumption. And at the last oil change, the oil was barely on the dipstick. And I knew it was running so good, and I didn't really, wasn't any blue smoke that I could see. So I started the car, and the way you check for blow by is, or the easiest way to check for blow by, while the car is running, take your oil filler cap off, which is a direct access to crankcase air pressure. You should have extremely little. There'll be some, but you should have very little crankcase pressure. And what there is, your PCV system, positive crankcase ventilation system, is supposed to take care of that for you. I took the oil filler cap off, and if I had hair, it would have blown my hair back as much air as was coming out of that oil filler cap location. So we had a lot of compression going into the crankcase. So I knew now why my oil level was low, but anyway, I did a compression test. Cylinders 1, 2, and 4 had 180 psi, which is absolutely fantastic. Cylinder 3, however, was struggling to even have 5 psi. That is extremely bad. The engine had probably 280,000 miles on it. So instead of trying to diagnose an engine that I was quite sure is kaput, I ordered another engine from JDM Engine Depot. I've ordered from them before and had very good luck. However, this time I blame some of it on myself. Let me just show you. So here's the old engine. Here's the engine that had a cylinder 3 right there, starting from your crankshaft pulley and going towards the transmission. You got 1, 2, 3, and 4. Cylinder 3 is the one that had almost no compression. It had such low compression, I expected to see a hole in the top of the piston, but no hole. And so anyway, I didn't even bother trying to diagnose it. I've taken the head off since then, but that's further into the story. I got the engine from JDM. It comes on a pallet. It's strapped down. They do a good job of that. Installed the engine. Now, I did do a couple of things that I always do. I take the valve cover off. I inspect what's underneath there. You can tell really quick if that engine had been maintained well or not, given what's underneath that valve cover. If you got sludge, has not been taken care of. Underneath this valve cover was extremely clean, like brand new clean kind of thing. Anyway, I was satisfied with that. I always take the oil pan off as well, see what's in the oil pan. Nothing but a little oil in there. Cleaned that out, sealed it all back up. installed my fancy new engine. Put the fluids, everything except putting the trim back on the car. And went to start it. And the engine was turning over as if it had zero compression on any of the cylinders. All right, so after had a weak spell and got sick to my stomach, basically, I got to thinking what could cause that. I mean, almost no compression, and underneath the valve cover looked, and I can show you. It's not bolted down right now. So underneath the valve cover looks extremely good, like brand new almost. So I got to reading the warranty from JDM, and here's where you got to be very careful. And I got ahead of myself and too big in a hurry, but okay, so I'm just a DIY guy. I am not a certified mechanic. I'm not a certified anything. But I mean, I know how to put the engine back where it was and plug the stuff back up to it. Now, nothing that I did caused zero compression in the cylinders. It was in that condition when it arrived to me. However, read JDM's warranty. They've got all kinds of loopholes where they basically don't have to do anything. They didn't even respond when I reached out to them, to say, hey, I'm not satisfied. They didn't respond. So anyway, in the detailed descriptions, it said that you must check the timing of the engine before installation. Well, that's kind of odd to me that you would have to check the timing before you install it, because if they are what they advertise, the most reliable engines direct from Japan, between, I don't know, 46 and 65,000 mile engines, why would I have to go into the engine to check the timing? And on this one, you take the valve cover off, then you rotate your crankshaft pulley, you line those marks up, and then you can see these after you take the valve cover off. There's a timing cover that goes over the rest of that you're not supposed to have to take off unless you have a timing issue. Well, I couldn't get my timing marks to line up. I could put the crank pulley where it's supposed to be, and you have to get cylinder 1 to top dead center on the compression stroke. That's pretty easy to do. You rotate your crankshaft pulley, put your hand over this spark plug hole, and when it's on the compression stroke, take all your spark plugs out. When it's on the compression stroke, you will definitely feel the air coming out. Then you just keep rotating until your mark lines up down there on the pulley. No problem. Then the timing marks on your timing chain are these sprockets are supposed to line up a certain way, and nothing was lining up. Nothing at all. So I ordered a timing chain tensioner, and I put that on. So I did get the engine timed correctly. I put the compression tester on it, and I'm getting 90 psi, 90 psi, 60 psi, and 60 psi. All 4 cylinders have low compression. There's a pretty decent chance that this engine's set long enough that moisture has creeped in and rust has formed around the valve seats or even around the valve itself, and it's causing those not to seat completely. So since my cordless microphone decided to give up on me, and I didn't realize it, I'm just going to have to narrate you through this. So what I'm showing you there is my fancy compression leak down test kit that I had ordered, and I got it in. Basically what I'm pointing at there is you have to have an air source from your compressor that goes in that port, and then which is what I'm doing now. I'm connecting the air hose to that port, and now the part that the hose that I screwed down into the spark plug hole, I'm going to connect the other end of that manifold to it here in just a second. Now the idea is, with the air coming in one side, that first gauge is going to read the air coming in. That second gauge is going to read how much air is staying in. So what I'm going to do is when I turn the air on, these dials should go up together, and they should stay together as close as possible. That means what the air that's leaking down out of the cylinder is if there's no leakage, those arrows will stay together. If there's a good bit of leakage, you'll see that second gauge drop. Now, so what we're doing, we're charging the cylinder we're going to try to put 100 psi of air. So the wrench on the camshaft on this particular vehicle, on this particular engine, the K24 engine, the 15/16 wrench will fit. There's a couple of places on each camshaft. There is a place, one location on each camshaft, where you can try to hold it. The engine is going to try to rotate. That's our problem, and it just did right then. So the hardest part about doing this is keeping the engine from rotating, because you're putting 100 psi of air pressure on top of a piston. It's going to want to move. So on your crankshaft pulley down below, you can try to brace it there against the frame or the ground. Here I got smart and I put a vice grip on that area. Be careful when whatever you're messing around with the camshafts. Don't put anything on the lobes. This area where I've got the vice grip, it's on the hexagonal section of camshaft where I was using the 15/16 wrench. But look at the gauges. So they started out fairly close together, and the more air pressure we put, the further apart they're going to get. So we're looking at somewhere like a 20% loss in pressure, and I think on this one, I think I actually get to 100 psi. So we're looking at like a 20 to 25% loss in the air pressure, which if we actually had sound, if the microphone had been working, and it's very difficult to keep the engine from rotating while I'm doing this, but I got about the same loss out of all four intake valves. Those intake ports were all leaking the compression out. I didn't have any leaks on the exhaust valves, but all of my intake valves were leaking. Now with the compression test kit, if that area is leaking, it's easy with the engine in the condition it's in now, with the intake manifold and exhaust manifold off. You can just put your hand in front of it. If it's a leak past the rings and the pressure's going into the crankcase, you should be able to hear that. If you're not feeling any air out of the intake or the exhaust, you should be able to feel that coming out of the out from the top of the head there. The only other place it could leak is a head gasket, and we didn't have any signs of that. If you had a blown head gasket, you would charge one cylinder and possibly feel the air coming out of the adjacent cylinders. So we didn't have any of that. Taking all the bolts out, we're going to take the valve train off. Be careful when you're prying. don't put anything on the lobes. And you're trying to find some strategic places to get a screwdriver in, and it just released right then. So you want to take the whole thing off together as an assembly. Otherwise, your camshafts will come up and those caps come apart, and then you have more pieces to deal with. So we want to keep this as complete as possible. And this is the only way we're going to take the head off, and the only way to get to the head bolts is to take your valve train off. So spread you out a couple of t-shirts or a nice run of paper towels. Take that in there in the shop and set it on that. Make sure it stays clean and the dust stays off of it. Cover it up with something. Got 10 head bolts. So and you take them off in reverse order. So I did get the head off, and let me show you what I found once I did get the head off. The cylinder walls, they seem to have a little rust and corrosion on them, and I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting a nice clean cylinder. After I saw what was underneath the valve cover, it looked good. There's an awful lot of carbon on top of the pistons, the cylinder walls, a little bit of rust. Still see some cross hatching on the cylinders, which is very good, but just think it's set somewhere longer than it should have. So hopefully, if we can get this thing running, hopefully we can improve the little engine. Hopefully it'll be good for us. So we're just gonna move forward with our plans for repair. Let's take a look at that cylinder head. So we got the cylinder head off. Taking a look at the head gasket, I don't see any areas where we would have had a blown head gasket. Everything looks pretty decent. All right, so I took one of the intake valves off, and if you can see that the valve seat is dirty. It's not clean. Maybe a little bit of pitting. I didn't really see that very well. On the valve, I took, and of course it wasn't clean. I put it under the wire brush wheel and tried to clean it up a little bit. But if I can show you, let me find where. Okay, here we go. Focus. Yeah, come on. Focus for me. Come on now. It's not wanting to, but do you see the pitting, that valve there? It won't stay focused, but anyway, I think you kind of see it. It's right on the edge. I've changed my mind on this so many times, and I'm supposed to change it again. So I had decided I was going to take the head to the machine shop, get that reworked, put it on the engine that's in the car now. You know, the more I look at this head, it's in great shape except for, you know, the valve seats and the valves not sealing. So I'm going to attempt, again, I may be making a terrible decision, but I'm going to attempt to grind the valves. I've done this before, but it's been many years ago. Grind the valves to see if we can't get them to seal. And it's not a difficult process. It's very, very simple. And I've already got 4 of the intake valves done. So those 4 have been done, and if you'll see on the edge there, the light gray area is the new surface Turned out really well. These are the ones that obviously have not been cleaned or ground yet, and that's why they weren't sealing. I think this engine has been sitting somewhere for a little while, and I believe that was the main problem. The only thing I don't understand, and I don't know why, but the exhaust valves aren't near as bad. Those are the ones in the back there. They aren't near as bad as the intake valves. Anyway, so this is our intake side here for the intake valve. So the seats that I haven't done, see, when I say seat, what you're looking at is this ridge right here, all the way around. That's your valve seat. That's where the little light gray edge, the new light gray edge I put on them, is going to seal against that right there, that little band all the way around. So these haven't been done. These have not been done. These have been done. So these are the ones that I've done so far. I've done 4 of the intake valves. I wish this, there we go. So you gotta, what you're doing when you grind the valve, some people call it lapping the valves. If you lap or grind, whatever you want to call it, what you're doing is you are basically remarrying the 2 surfaces with, you guessed it, a grinding compound. And you can get this at any auto parts store, valve grinding compound. Now the tool, if you look up valve grinding tool, you'll find this. Never in my life have I been able to get this stupid thing to work. The idea is, and I'll show you real quick. Let me put some rubber gloves on. I'll show you. Okay, I'm gonna take a valve I haven't done yet, and here. So the idea is you take a little bit of the grinding compound and you put a very tiny bead all the way around the seat, the valve seat, or the valve, excuse me, the edge of the valve right here, where that should be a nice shiny surface. You put it around there, then you slip the valve back in, then you take this nice tool here. It's supposed to suction to that valve, or you can spit on it, whatever you want to try to get it to suction. The suctioning never happens, but even if it does, once you get that valve grinding compound that's very abrasive, that I can never get that valve to turn with this tool. So what I did, and I'll zoom out and let you watch one. What I did was I come up with my own tool, and there's people on the internet that do this too. I'm sure you may have seen it before, but I just took a drill bit, an old dull drill bit. You can take anything you got. It don't have to be a drill bit. Something that'll fit, and you can clamp in your drill. Put a little piece of hose on it. Put a clamp. Put another clamp on the other end, and what you're going to do is you're going to slide this end onto the valve stem. Tighten the little clamp just a little bit. You don't have to be real tight. And then you're going to spin that valve back and forth, and it's a whole lot quicker, easier, and it actually works. So let me get this valve cleaned up, and when I say cleaned up, I'm going to stick it on the wire wheel of my grinder, and I'm going to get all this off of it. We'll put a little valve grinding compound on it, and I'll show you how it works. So I'll take my valve. I'm just going to do just a really light bead around the shiny part of the edge of that valve there. And it ain't got to be perfect. You just need to get a little bit on there, and I'll show you why. Alright. Now, Gonna drop it back down into place. Okay, now we take this and I'm gonna tilt the head over this way so I can get to the back. And I'm gonna put this onto the valve stem back there, and I'm gonna tighten my little clamp. I want to hold the valve so you don't push it back through. Alright, just gonna tighten that little clamp up. You don't have to give it all of it, just tighten it a little bit. Now, okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're going to turn the drill on and we're going to work. I don't know if you can see that. Pushing the valve in and out. When you push it in and out, it kind of has a capillary action to it. That's my big word for the day, capillary. As you push that valve out, that grinding compound kind of pulls itself back into place. So we're going to do it on forward, and then we're going to do it on reverse. But here's the thing, when I start, you're going to hear the grinding noise, and then it's going to smooth out. It's going to get kind of quiet. At that point, you push the valve out and then back in. What it does, it pulls that compound back where it's supposed to be, and you'll hear it grinding again. So listen for this change in the sounds. See how it's grinding and then it smooths out. You don't hear it grinding anymore. Alright, so now we're going to reverse it and do the same thing. Do this, I don't know, I do it 7, 8, 9, 10 times each direction. When you're satisfied that you've done it enough, just loosen the little clamp. Set your drill aside. We're going to clean everything really well once we get all this done. See how nice and even that is. We'll set it back here. And now we have a really nice, clean, smooth seat that our valve should seal up to nicely. All right, so I got my all my valves ground. I got the head cleaned up best I could. So what I'm doing now is the valve springs have a little bushing washer, whatever you want to call it. You got one that goes on the bottom, and then you put your valve stem seal, which is what I'm doing now. And then once you put your valve in, then you compress the spring. You put the spring, the little cap on the spring, and the keepers that hold it down, and I'll show you all that. But we got the ones that go on the bottom, the little washers on the bottom. Now I'm just putting the valve stem seals. So these are going, right here to seal any oil. As oil circulates through your head, on top of your head here, it keeps oil from sliding down your valve stem and going directly into in this side into the intake. I'm sorry, this side is the exhaust. Keeps it from going into the exhaust on this side and keeps it from going into the intake on this side. So the way I've been doing it is a 10 millimeter socket, at least on these for this little car, for this little engine. It fits perfectly. You don't want to hit on the actual rubber seal part up here. You'll trash it. But the 10 millimeter, I got a deep socket, so there's plenty of room. It fits on the shoulder of it right here really good. So then you can tap it in with the hammer and not damage your actual seal. So, and they're on there pretty tight now. I mean, it's not like, you know, you can just push it on with your hand. All right, it takes a few good whacks to get it on, but once it's on, it's on. All right, I'm gonna show you how I am gonna start putting these valves back in. Kind of get this out of the way here. We got all of our valve stem seals in, ready to put the valves in, and I've kept them in order. I failed to emphasize that when I was telling you about the valve grinding or lapping, whatever you want to call it. Make sure that most especially, after you've lapped the valves, make sure that you maintain organization on which valve goes where. Otherwise, you've defeated the whole purpose of the lapping. You married a particular valve to a particular spot. So make sure you've got those organized. So another thing to mention is about valve springs. The intake springs are not the same as the exhaust springs. The intake springs are not quite as strong as the exhaust springs. So if your colors on your springs have disappeared over time, that's one way you might can tell. On this particular engine, and it's hard to tell on these because most of the color is gone, and I don't know if that camera's going to pick that up. There's a little bit of white paint left inside there. And those are intake springs. The exhaust springs will be colored. This is green, but they can be colored blue or maybe red. I think maybe most of them are colored blue on this engine, but these are obviously green. And so putting them side by side on the bench, pressing down on one and then pressing down on the other one, these are much stronger. Your exhaust springs are always going to be stronger. All right, having said that, let's install our first intake valve. So I've cleaned the valves with some solvent, and we're going to install the intake valve. I can't see, I gotta tip it over. The first valve, which was the first one in line right here. So this is the correct spot. Now you're going to need a since it's an intake spring. Roll it over so you can see what I'm doing. Intake spring. Intake spring. You'll have the little cap that goes on the top, and you will need 2 keepers. They are very small. Now I'm gonna try to do this so you can see. It's not a whole. This isn't a very good spot. I can't figure out how I'm gonna get you to see everything, but we're gonna do our best. So we've got the valve in. We've got our spring. All right, so we've got our valve in. got our spring, got our little cap. Now we're going to just need to compress this in order to get our two little keepers on. And to show you what the keepers do, at the head, at the end of this valve right here, the top of this valve, you see that little ring around it? This keeper has a, yep, they're easily lost, so luckily I got another head over here, so I've got some extra ones, but that keeper locks into place on that valve right there. Oh, there we go. It locks into place in that valve, and it's formed kind of a cone shape. And this cap being underneath it, this cap can't go past it, so it all works together to keep your valve under tension. I'll never find that keeper, so good thing we've got some extras. All right, gotta get our valve spring compressor tool. This can be a little wonky. That's a technical term. If you get it off to one side, it makes it no fun. So, all right, I think we got it. Make sure your valve stem is coming up through the center of this cap. It's easy to get off to the side, and then you just have to take it all back off. So all we're doing is we're compressing that spring. It's holding the cap on this end. I'll show you what it's holding on the other side. The other end of your valve spring compressor tool is contacting the valve itself. So we're basically pinching that valve against the spring to compress the spring. Now, while it is like that, I gotta pull my gloves off of this because these are so, and different compressor tools probably let you do this easier. This tool is doesn't make it easy because you got this cage thing that you're having to work around. It works. It's not the easiest one. Of course, you know me. I didn't buy the nice one. I bought the cheap one, so that's probably why it's like that. And if you got large fingers and hands like I do, you have to figure it out. So I got these little tiny needle nose pliers. I think I can drop that in there. All right. And you'll have to kind of wobble, that's another technical term, wobble it around a little bit until those keepers kind of go in there and find a little seat, find their home. And then once you start taking the valve spring compressor off, you can definitely tell that they're holding. So now the next step is take your Tanya Harding. Now, if that one wasn't seated well, she'd have popped off and went halfway across the room, but that one's good. Well, there she is. Let me tell you, when I was lapping the valves, this last one right here was actually bent. Not much. It was almost, I couldn't tell until I had actually ground it. And let's see, I put it over here. The only way I could tell is, and you may not can tell, but if you look real close, I don't know that the camera's going to pick it up. Anyway, that's supposed to be a nice, even gray line around it where we lap it, but it gets wide right there, then it goes narrow, then it gets wide again. The only reason it would do that is if it was bent. So I put it in my drill so I could spin it and watch it, and it was very, very slightly, it was bent. So luckily, I still have the head from the old engine, so I stole the exhaust valve off of it, lapped again, and inspected the, every time I lapped one, I would inspect the edge and make sure it was nice and uniform. And I was really looking to see if there was any pitting or anything like that that didn't get removed, but it's a good way to check for bent valves too. All right, we got our valves in. Now we're doing the seal test to see how well these valves are going to seal. So brought it out here behind the shop and I got it as level as I could, and I've filled. You have to put your spark plugs back in, you know, otherwise whatever you put in here will just go right out the spark plug hole. So put the spark plugs back in, and I put gasoline in them. A lot of places, if you watch other videos on the internet, they just put water, and I'm not too keen on putting water in my engine components. Gas, it will evaporate, plus it does have some lubricity to it. That's my new word for the day, lubricity. It does have some lubrication properties to it, plus it evaporates pretty quickly. It's a petroleum product, so I feel better about putting the gasoline. Plus, water has a lot of surface tension and sometimes can sit and not leak out when there may possibly be a small area for leaks. If you put something like gasoline in it, that it will easily run out. So anyway, what you look for is, number one, if the level goes down, which these have not gone down, and if they do go down, you will see, because if the valves leak, you either have exhaust valves leaking or you have intake valves leaking. This being the exhaust side, you would see some fuel. This being the intake side, if you had intake valves leaking, you would see some fuel. Now, if you let the light hit it, I fill those up. This one probably could use a few more drops. I didn't fill it as much, but you get the idea. You're just looking to make sure that your valve lapping job, and my wife loves that term, valve lapping. She laughed about that for quite some time. She had never heard that. She thought it was quite amusing. So your valve grinding, valve lapping job, if it was successful, your valves will seal and you will get no leaks. So we're going to just leave it here for a little bit. I'm not seeing any leaks whatsoever, which is great. Still nothing. That's dry, 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 and dry. So we're just going to leave it for a little bit, let it sit, and you know, after, I don't know, 10-15 minutes, that will be plenty of time. If there is the slightest leak, that fuel will find it and it will start seeping. All right, it's been about 10-15 minutes, and we do have some leakage. If I can show you here, anyway, it's gonna be hard to tell, but got a leak there, leak there. Oh, very, very minor there, and no leak. We have no leak right here. Very minor leak, and these two are leaking on the intake. So if we go around to the exhaust, I'm not sure if you can see this, but all right, no leak. Those two are leaking. Those are leaking, and those are leaking. So we got to go back to the drawing board. Got the head back on the workbench and took the valves back out, and what I think, because what I did with each one of these valves, I chucked them in my drill, and I could spin, and then I could see if the gray stripe, which we created when we ground the valves, if it's consistent and smooth, and whether or not the valve is bent. And you can tell that if it's a little wobble in your drill. Some of them do have, and I mean a very slight wobble, and some of them do have inconsistency with that gray mark. If you just hold it in your hand, I don't think it's going to focus there, and you spin it, you're like, oh, that's great. Put it in the drill and spin it, and you can see some inconsistencies. So, not all of them, but these valves are, come on, these valves are pitted, and some of them do have inconsistencies. So, I have ordered new valves. Now, there is a chance that the valve seats could be an issue, but right now what I'm going to do, and it's not money lost, if I order the new valves and I lap them in and I still have a leak problem, I do have new valves, and I can take those with the head to the machine shop and let them, they may have to replace the seats. These valve seats, they do come out, and they press new ones in and then cut the new ones to the correct angle. Okay, so where we last left off, I had the fuel sitting on that head, and we had a few leaks on the valves. So I ordered new valves. Those new valves are now installed with the second set of new valve stem seals, and I ground those or lapped them, whatever you want to call, with the 2-stage, with the coarse first, then the fine grit. And I pressure washed the head to try to get as much of that nastiness out as I could. So got the intake manifold bolted back on. I've just finished bolting the head back on, and I'm gonna tell you how I did this. If you're reusing your head bolts, and if you're cheap like I am, you will. Step one, torque them off to 29 foot-pounds. Now there's a sequence. Basically like anything else, especially aluminum. Start in the middle and then start crisscrossing as you move out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You get the idea. You start spreading out. Finishing up with these outer 4. There's 10, by the way. 29 foot-pounds. Step 2, tighten them 90 degrees. All of them by the sequence that you just finished. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You know. Step 3, repeat step 2. Tighten them an additional 90 degrees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, I don't have the torque wrench that measures the 90 degrees. Those electrical digital torque wrenches that are $200-300, you know, I buy the cheap stuff. But anyway, mine does not measure degrees. Usually you can eyeball it. You know, you line your breaker bar up and 90 degrees, right? Well, I found this gadget, and it is a gadget, on the Amazons. And some of you have probably seen this before. This is a poor man's degree reader when you're trying to torque bolts. Basically, the shaft that your breaker bar, torque wrench, whatever. I use the breaker bar because at this stage we're not torquing anymore. We're using degrees, and I don't want to mess up my torque wrench. So you put this on. Let me just take this apart. This is my extension, and you will need a 14 millimeter 12-point socket for the head bolts. So this is how you get this gadget right here. This center shaft rotates independently of this clear plastic dial and the part that has the numbers on it, the degree numbers. And this little deal right here, you have to basically, you got to prop it against something. You know what I'm saying? Here, I'll demonstrate. Sorry, I got 2 hands. So let's say we're gonna torque this one right here. And by the way, if you notice, I got paint marks on my bolts. If you're like me and you start, yeah, you could, as long as you're sitting here and you're by yourself and you're nice and quiet, you don't have to mark them. You're like, yeah, 1, 2, 3. The phone rings, somebody pulls up in the driveway, the dog starts barking at the mailman, whatever. And you're like, oh crap, did I? No, was that one? No, it was that one. As soon as you torque one, put a paint mark on it, then you know. All right. So we're gonna torque this bolt. You gotta prop this against something, so as you're turning this whole top doesn't rotate. So that's what this is for. And you can, as this is hooked on to the bolt, you can move this around anywhere you need to. Get it to where it's propped against something. Now you need your little dart, your arrow mark needs to point to 0, which is right there. So your little clear thing turns independently as well. So you spin it till you're pointing at 0. All right, so this and this will now stay put. As you turn this, I'm sorry, this black part that's braced against your spark plug well tube is fixed now. It won't move. As you turn this, your clear dial will move because it's not braced against anything. And as you see it go around, when it gets to the 90, that's it. That's 90 degrees. It's pretty simple. It is Chinesium. And if you'll notice, my little decal that has the numbers, it's already starting to get roughed up. But as long as it doesn't peel off like all the way into the numbers to where I can't read them, then it'll be fine. But this was wonderful. This is the kit I bought to help with the valve stem seal remover and installer. This is the remover. I'll put a link in the description to it as well. All this stuff came off of Amazon. It's all Chinesium. So it's got like, I don't know if you call that serrated. It's got, yeah, whatever. Supposed to be able to grab the valve stem seal and pull it off. Well, those things are on there, man. And this is, you got to really put the onions to it to get that thing off. So I didn't find the pliers of great use, or the removal tool, I guess I should call it. Vice grips, not too tight. You can wiggle them and get them off pretty easy. But now the installer, the first set I installed, I just did it with a 10mm socket, and that worked pretty good. However, this is way much better. So this part, you put your, let me get a seal, I'll show you. Take your valve stem seal, slide it up onto that little shaft right there, and the head of the seal, the one that you can see the spring, it kind of goes up into a little indentation on this. So you get your seal going. They got it nice and lined up. It's got the head with the spring protected. So now this tool is threaded on one end. So thread your other attachment in there. Now you take that, this part slides. You got different sizes for different size valve guides. So for the Honda, this one is a 5.5mm, slides perfectly into the valve guide, which lines this seal up correctly. And it took about 4 taps with the hammer, and you can hear the sound when it changes. As soon as it bottoms out, that sound changes, you can stop. Don't hit it anymore, you'll damage it. Not the tool, the valve stem seal. But anyway, So that's that. I would buy this tool again strictly for this. These weren't any help to me. I used the vice grips. Don't get them too tight. You'll have to wiggle it. Uh, anyway, you can get them off. They're not terribly easy to get off. But anyway, good purchase. Very well worth that. And then you have to make sure you get the valve spring compressor tool. I'm sure I showed you this earlier in the video, but all this stuff, Orion Motortech, okay. It's not your top of the line valve spring compressor tool. The really nice ones cost much more than this one. I don't remember exactly how much this one costs. I will put a link to it in the description as well, though. For as many times as I'm going to need it, the Chinesium and the price you get for it, or the price you get it for, it works perfectly fine. So as I said, head bolts are now torqued. I am waiting on new fuel injectors. I purchased a fuel injector tester, again from the Amazonian website. I'm going to show it to you as well, and I would recommend you not buying this. So here it is. It's a little hacked up because I butchered it after it wouldn't work for what I had intended it for. I butchered it and got parts and pieces to make another tool out of. So these are little single fuel injector testers. Actually, you could test two of them at the same time, but this one has 2 leads on it. I cut the other 2 off, like I said, making another tool for myself. But anyway, you hook your injector up after you take the injector out of the car. You hook your injector up. Here's one. 2 leads go here. You have this little gadget that you put one end of the injector in. If I can get it in there with one hand. Anyway, you can put an injector in here. You got to hold it with your hand. And then the other end, if you see that little hole, you take a can of carburetor cleaner, brake clean, whatever, and you take the little cap off the top of it. I don't know if I have one here, but you take the cap off of the aerosol can, and the little tube that's sticking out, you take this and put it on top, and you mash down, and the spray comes out fuel injector in. And there are some very, very tiny holes in there. You may or may not can see those. It's awfully dirty, so I don't know. Very tiny holes. Anyway, it's supposed to clean that out. So it would work if it were not for the fact that some of these injectors will not operate when the pressure in the aerosol can is too high. Because, you know, fuel pressure on a vehicle, it's usually around 40 psi. The pressure in the aerosol can be 60 or 80. And so the problem I was having was I had 8 injectors, 4 out of the original engine, 4 out of the JDM engine, and I was only getting 1 or 2 of them that would even work using this thing, because the only thing I could come up with, and I tried to do some internet research, the only thing I could come up with is the pressure in the aerosol can is too high. And so they wouldn't operate. So a little tester here is garbage. I contacted the company. They did give me a refund. They offered me a replacement one for a high voltage fuel injector. They said that what I had was not a 12-volt fuel injector. It's a Honda Accord. It's a 12-volt system. It's a 12-volt fuel injector. So anyway, regardless, don't waste your money on that. I got on Rock Auto and I've purchased some new fuel injectors. Well, I jumped ahead and did a bunch of work, and I'll let you nap out on that because it's kind of like watching paint dry. But anyway, when last you saw, I had torqued the head down. I did reinstall the timing chain. I've set the valve clearances. We got 0.010 on the intakes, 0.013 on the exhaust. Installed the intake manifold, the intake plenum. We do have our new fuel injectors installed. I've got the fuel rail here, and right now I'm currently reconnecting hoses and wires and whatnot. That's the fun part. No, it's actually no fun at all, but anyway, we are making progress, and before the day is out, I plan on driving this car down the road. So just got a few more things to button up here. We'll reinstall the battery, fill it back up with coolant, engine oil, do a last minute, blessing, make sure all of our doodads are connected and whatnot, and I'll let you witness the initial startup or attempt thereof. Hear a little bit of a ticking noise over here on this end. I'm gonna check all my fluids. I don't think I checked the power steering fluid, but let me make sure all my fluids are up. But I am hearing a noise over here on this end. Not sure what that is. All right, so the ticket noise we got rid of, that was in the power steering pump. It was in the power steering pump. I'd gotten to thinking that I had never changed or flushed the power steering fluid, and I didn't do. There's a couple of different ways you can do the flush. I took the I took the easy way out, lazy way out, I guess. Take the top off your power steering reservoir right there. Get you around here. Lazy way is take the top off your power steering reservoir right here. And I had a little, well, I'll show it to you. I think it's for a battery. It's for filling up your battery. You can get it pretty much any auto parts store. I think I got mine on Amazon or whatever. It's just a bulb and a stick, a tube, anything like this. And I just stuck it in there, and you squeeze it, stick it in there, and it sucks it up. And you do that. You do that a few times, probably about 3 or 4 times. What you do is you suck as much as you can out of the reservoir. And then you put Honda approved power steering fluid. And it does make a difference. Don't put the Lucas power steering fluid or generic power steering fluid. Some of that is too thick. And if your power steering pump has to work too hard, it will get hot, and you could damage the power steering pump. My problem was that it was so dirty, it was so contaminated, it needed to be changed. So the first that I pulled out was pretty much black, and I did it about four times. What I did was I pulled as much out as I can, fill it to the maximum line with Honda approved power steering fluid, and there are some different brands out there. I use Prestone. Crank your car. What I did was I backed it up and I kind of drove it around the shop here, making sure to turn the steering wheels as much as possible. Full rotation left and right when I turned around or whatever. Just pulled it back up here, suck that out, replace that with fresh. Repeat that process about, I think I did it about 4 times, and it got to be a lot more clear. And my power steering pump ran smooth and it wasn't getting hot. So fix that. So now the car runs good, but what I want to do is check our compression in each of the 4 cylinders. After all that work, I want to see if we have good compression in all 4 cylinders. So I'm going to have to take this cover off here. Going to have to take the coils off, the plugs, and get our compression tester hooked up. I'm sorry guys, I missed filming the first one. We got 158 on the first one. It's not outstanding, but it's good. So let's look at cylinder 2. You want to go look at it? It's getting hot out here. Okay, we're better. Looks like we got about 170. That's good. That's okay, that's good. Now, the other engine, cylinder 3 was our problem. This cylinder right here. What if this one has the same problem? What the end, Angela?
I guess you can buy me a new car.
Buy you a better old car. Okay. All right, cylinder 3. Maybe y'all can see that. Yep, starting at 0. Doing good. We got, it's about 175. We're getting better. Uh-oh, I just jinxed us, didn't I? All right, this is the last one. We've gotten good so far. Will our luck hold out? pretty good. That's 165. So we got 158, 170, 175, and 165. For a used engine, given the problems that we had, I'll take it. The old engine, we had 180, 180, 0, and 180. So seeing as how now we've got all 4 cylinders working for us, I'm satisfied. I'm glad. We'll take it. So I'm gonna put all this back, and I won't bore you with all that. But so we got the power steering click fixed. That was contaminated fluid. Once we flushed it, it stopped getting hot. And the tick went away. We got decent pressures on the compression, and I think we're good to go. Well, that's it for the Honda. She's back on the road. We had a few bumps in the road along the way, but it only took about 6 months for this repair, but it's repaired. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you saw something you like, you're welcome to use it. You might have saw something that you don't need to do on yours. You're welcome to that too. If you get tired of watching me work on vehicles, let me know what you'd like to see. Be glad to accommodate. But this one's repaired. Hope you enjoyed it. Whatever you do, just always remember, be kind to one another. We'll see you next time.
Put my tag on.
What?